Hey everybody, I'm Key,
And I'm Bailey
and we are coming at you from
from
the
the
box.
box.
This is gonna be a bit of a chiller episode today. In the early days of us launching our Instagram, we basically asked all of you, and we were like, "Well, what do you guys want to know? What are your burning questions? What are your things you simply have to hear us answer?" So today is all about that Q&A, and hopefully we will be giving some sufficient, satisfactory
A's.
answers. And if it wasn't helpful, don't worry about it. A lot of you really wanted to know specifically about F1 romance novels. I
We're
really
starting
was
off on that.
I included it in the little graphic because I wanted people to know that they could ask us fun questions or actual sport related questions or whatever. So I included it in the graphic, but I wasn't expecting so many people to take us up on it and be like, "Okay, well, tell us what they are then." I mean, we can start off with it if you want to. If you
Whatever. I got my notes.
Bailey's got her list. Okay, all right. So yeah, let me see. I think it was 3 people. Okay, but actually, what is the best F1 romance novel? And wait, for real, drop some good F1 bookies, etc., etc. So give us your recs. I have none because I don't read, and I also don't read F1. So this is all you, Bailey.
Okay. Pre-warning. Um, these books are not necessarily good. They are enjoyable. They're not going to be literary works of genius because that's not how I read.
No one's asking about F1 romance novels expecting Tolkien.
I mean, some of my hockey romances are.
Okay, that's fair. That's so fair.
They are not works of genius. They're just fun. They're enjoyable.
They're silly goofy.
They're
They're
silly
just little
goofy.
romances. Whatever.
Yeah, they make you go, they make you highlight and like mark those notes on your Kindle.
Annotate. Mm-hmm.
So to start it off, the book that got me into F1, the Dirty Air series, of which I have still only read the first two. I'm halfway there. That's okay. But I read the first one before I got into F1. I was like, wow, that's what got me into it, sparked my interest. The second one, I was like, okay, still fun, silly, goofy. I can spot a few of the inaccuracies. I'm like, can see why people who are into F1 don't necessarily like them. And then I read the third one and I was like, kind of like grinning and bearing through it because I was
Mm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm more into F1. I'm more well versed in it now. They're starting to like,
You can't really
yeah,
tolerate it or excuse it anymore, kind of thing.
no.
Yeah.
Like a lot of sports romances and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they're set in the world of, but they don't involve much of the sport.
Yeah.
So, like, how much time in an actual hockey romance are they playing hockey? And are they watching the sport?
Mm-hmm.
Not very often. In the Dirty Air series, they're racing a bit more. So, the actual focus is on the racing, but it's still silly, goofy fun. So, they're both a rec and an unrec. If you're not well versed in F1, then yeah, 100%. They're super good. Lauren Asher, love her. But if you're a little bit more well versed in it, they might, if you can separate them, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But um one that I did enjoy because it didn't involve much of the racing, it wasn't on the focus. The
Mm-hmm.
focus was on the like relationship, and they didn't focus on like the intricacies of racing, even though there was parts of it. It was a little bit more like studied. Off Track by Leslie McAdam. Tis a gay romance, so they're two men, and it is, I think it was enemies to lovers kind of. So
Okay. I
we
love
love
that.
enemies to lovers here.
We love
We
enemies to
love
lovers in
enemies to
this
lovers.
house.
I haven't read like that many because they scare me. Um,
No, that's fair. That's also why I haven't read a lot of you would think that since getting into the NHL and the PWHL, I would kickstart get back into reading books by reading hockey books. But I find that I'm the same as you, where I'm worried that now that I know more about it, a
mhm.
lot of them are gonna turn me off from it.
No, totally. Which is why one of my unrecs is Love in the Fast Lane. I think that one was in third person as well. I'm not a third person fan,
I am a
but
third person fan, but valid.
yeah.
I'm Googling this real quick. Was it? Wait. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. I
The
see it.
purple cover.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. I don't like that cover.
No, I did DNF that one. So that is one of my unrecs. I didn't love it, didn't get into it. I immediately was like picking up on inaccuracies and just
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. From the cover, I already don't like it.
some of the promos for it were really good though.
Oh, I
Like the
see.
author was putting some like social promos out
Mm,
and it wasn't available on Kindle Unlimited for a while and then it was.
I
So
see.
that's when I downloaded it and I immediately removed it from my library.
As you
Sorry.
should. I recognize this author. So you keep talking. I'm just gonna stalk her Instagram.
And then just my it's not F1 racing, but it's a little bit of street racing and it's my number one book of 2024,
Ooh.
Racing Hearts by K.A. Knight. Also MM. It
Elite.
honestly so good, but literally one of my favorite couples. They're kind of like little bit enemies to lovers, but it's when I was reading in the car um on the way back from Gimli when yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about. Nobody else
Yes.
does.
I remember. I remember.
Yeah, I've never had a book give me such a visceral response than a specific moment in that book.
You said more like street racing kind
Yeah.
of vibe,
Mm-hmm.
but like not like proper like F1 motorsports
Mm-mm.
vibe.
No, it's just street racing.
Gotcha,
And there's
gotcha.
only like 3 moments in it, I think, that there's street races. It's
So
also
true.
not really the focus of the book, but
I'm like the kind of person where this is partly why I kind of want to write my own hockey romance novels. I feel like a lot of them, like you said, just kind of use the backdrop as like a compelling setting, but they don't actually focus on the sport. But I'm different. I'm not like other readers. No, I'm just kidding. But I actually am interested in a balance between like the romance and the actual sport.
that's why you
Um,
should read the Playing for Keeps series
yes, you have
with
mentioned this to
Consider
me.
Me. Becca Mack, she's Canadian.
Yes.
She actually like is a hockey fan. She
Period. Love it.
actively goes to games, actively like
Yes, okay, good. Like I
she
need an
knows
author who
hockey.
like knows the game because
Yeah.
I want like a decent dose of like actual like playing and like understanding of like the rules in the game. This is not related to anyone that anyone has asked us, but guys, I'm going to talk about this probably maybe in another episode. I'm creating my own NHL league for eventually if I ever decide to write some books. So
That's
I've
what
just
like a bunch of authors do.
So I've just been
So
going through and just like finding like I have my own teams that I've made and my own characters that I've created. You're not gonna know them yet. Any other recs for people?
I have hockey recs, but nobody asked about hockey recs. So
I
we can always
mean,
save those for another day if people care.
oh yeah, so true. If you want hockey recs, because I have one. if you if you want hockey recs,
You know where to find us.
comment it 5 times. Like,
If you
comment,
want to know where my
subscribe.
tattoo is from, the bottom part, no
Ooh,
exit.
actually, that is a great story. Yes, yes, yes. Engage with us, and then we'll tell you because that's actually it's a really good story, and you guys deserve to hear it. But we're not gonna give it for free. I mean, we're gonna give it for free, but like, you have to say that you want it.
But I do have hockey recs, so
Yeah, I
hit
have
us up.
one.
Comment, like, subscribe down below. Pay $5 to our Patreon.
Pay for our cameos.
So true. Pay for my Joy to Cord cameo.
Real. Buy Bailey a Joy Decord cameo,
And we'll talk.
and then we'll talk.
And then I'll buy you a rec. One of my recs. My number one rec. I will buy it for you.
Dang! Wow, what a deal, guys! You kidding? What a bargain! Take her up on that immediately. Like, what are you waiting for? Cool. What other questions? Oh, you were really excited to answer this question, so I'm gonna toss this to you. Which hockey team would make the coolest F1 livery?
Yeah. I put zero thought into it because
Just go off
I'm
the vibes.
I'm a color girly.
Real.
Honestly, the Seattle Kraken, naturally. My
No
team.
bias
No
whatsoever.
bias. Just the best color scheme.
Not me googling F1 livery. Okay, for people who are like who don't know F1, like me, like what are some is it appropriate to be like what have been the best ones that you've seen? Like is that
Yeah.
like a thing?
Yeah. My number one livery is the chrome McLaren.
Ooh.
They, yeah. So everyone loved it so much last year that they brought it back for, or the year before that they brought it back for this past year.
Nice.
It's my favorite. I love
Okay,
it.
well now that I know now that I understand what we're working with, I can have a better visual for
Mm-hmm.
what the heck you're talking about. Okay. So yeah, I can see the Kraken.
Mm-hmm. Or honestly, the Sharks
Period.
for color scheme. We love a blue in this house. Unfortunate team, but the Minnesota Frost.
Oh, are you kidding? Wait.
A
Wait, you're actually so right for that.
F1 Academy, Minnesota Frost.
That you're so real for that. That's
Mm-hmm.
so good. I just looked up best F1 liveries of all time or whatever. So okay, I'm getting the vibe now. I'm understanding what we're talking about. These
Yeah,
are
so there's
nice.
like the normal
Mhm.
livery that the car has like all year round, and
Mhm.
then they'll do special liveries for certain races.
Oh, cute. Like specialty jerseys in hockey.
Hmm. Yeah, or like
Love that.
sponsorship. Yeah,
Love that.
like the Chrome is sponsored by Google Chrome.
Oh, cute. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, well now I'm going to try and take a stab at this question having just been introduced to this concept 2 seconds ago. Um yeah, the frost is a good one. You
It
picked a good
is.
one. The fleet would also make us sick.
Yeah,
Like the
it just
color
gives a
scheme
little bit
is
to Aston Martin,
googling real quick.
just because they have a more green like color scheme in general. So
Oh, I see. Okay. Maybe a hot take. There aren't a lot of good color schemes in the NHL. Like
honestly, the Penguins would be kind of cool.
I was thinking that too.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure if the yellow would be a vibe,
It
but it could
used to
work.
be a classic color.
He's hot take of the episode. Not a lot of NHL teams have good color schemes.
They all have the same color schemes. That's
They're
my
all like,
issue.
yeah, exactly. Like, how many teams are going to be red, white, and blue? Every
All of
single one.
them.
Literally all of them. The exact same shades of red, exact same shades of blue. Like, come on. Get it together.
Or they're already just like F1 team colors, so there's nothing really new. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, Dallas Stars.
Yeah, that's a good color combo, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Literally, genuinely, all other color schemes, ass, ugly. They're all boring. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
could see like Vegas, like
Yeah.
gold and black, but like
Unfortunately,
that's
yes, I
kind of
could see that
boring.
also. It's pretty basic, but yeah, I could see that. Judging from what I have just googled, like yeah, that could fit in pretty good. Scrolling past all the F1 romance questions. Y'all are crazy. Y'all are actually crazy. You know what, Bailey? I'm just gonna hit you with all the questions.
What?
um, one of them says at Bailey, thoughts on the grid lineup for 2025,
I have
whatever that
many
means.
thoughts.
Oh, okay. Like a whole like as in it could be its own episode worth of thoughts.
Um, it could be like a while. It's just like there's just too many rookies.
Hmm.
So the grid lineup, all of the ones I circled are
Mm-hmm.
rookies or new to a full-time seat.
Oh wow. That's like pretty much half of them.
Yeah. Aston Martin and McLaren are the only teams with the same driver lineup from last year.
Oh, I see.
All of the others have changed.
They've kind of switched it up a bit. I
Yeah.
see.
The Red Bull seat. It's not going to be solid. It's never solid. It's never been a guaranteed seat for anybody except for Max. So excited for Liam Lawson. I like him. I think he has potential. I don't necessarily think anybody is a good fit for the second Red Bull seat. Hot take.
Okay,
Nobody.
interesting. Bailey's
Nobody
hot take of the episode.
nobody new should be
Mm.
getting the second Red Bull seat. But nobody experienced will accept a second driver position.
Mm.
because you're always going to be second driver in that second seat when you're sitting next to Max. Because Max is always going to be their primary driver.
Mm-hmm.
But someone like Charles Leclerc, someone like Oscar Piastri
Mm-hmm.
could take that seat and could dominate.
But they wouldn't want to.
But they wouldn't want to be second driver.
Yeah, totally.
And it's just such, like, there's been so many drivers in that second seat that have held it for less than a year.
It's giving like the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor
Mm-hmm.
position at Hogwarts, where they can never hold the same prof
Mm-hmm.
for more than a year.
Exactly. The Ferrari lineup, I'm scared. I
Okay.
think they're two very dominant, capable drivers. Do I
Mm-hmm.
think they'll have a shot at the constructors next year? Yeah. I think because they have two strong drivers and they've built up the car so much this year that I think they're gonna have a pretty solid shot. But they have no primary driver.
Mm.
Charles isn't gonna step back for Lewis. Lewis sure as hell isn't gonna step back. He
Yeah, no, those
wants
are
his next title.
big names and big personalities. So
Mm-hmm.
even me, who knows literally nothing, I saw those two together and I was like, oh, like two number ones.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
We'll skip over Aston Martin.
Oh, okay.
They exist. Honestly, Williams pairing, solid. Excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to see what Carlos does with it, to see
Carlos.
if he can develop the team.
Period.
Kick Sauber exists. I don't care. They're one team I don't care about,
Yeah,
honestly.
I've
So sorry.
never even heard of them, so go off.
Congrats, Bortoletto, for getting a seat. That's it.
Okay, period.
Mercedes, I have thoughts. Okay.
Yeah, I know you have thoughts. Save some. Give your most prevalent thoughts.
Kimi Antonelli is to Mercedes what Connor Bedard is to the Blackhawks.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
He's going to be under so much pressure. He has such high expectations. He is freshly 18.
Mm-hmm.
He's a
What?
baby.
And he's taking the spot of really big name
Mm-hmm.
so like really big shoes to fill coming off of his departure. So
The previous world champion. Like, yeah. I have so many thoughts about that.
yeah, and I'm looking at the picture. That's a baby.
Yes.
That's a baby.
Toto Wolff was in the talks with the FIA to rewrite the rule that he had written in
Mm-hmm.
so he could sign Kimi Antonelli before he turned 18.
So 18 is the minimum.
Yeah. Toto Wolff fought to get that rule put in place after Max Verstappen came in. He was under 18. I don't remember his exact age.
A baby.
I think he was 17. And we'll get into it later.
Okay, I'm excited.
He drove very questionably. He drove very erratically.
Yeah.
He entered as Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
Iconic time,
Mm-hmm.
but the rule was
Yeah.
written in for that.
Totally. Yeah. Fair enough.
And he wanted to unwrite it because he wanted a driver now that was young.
Okay.
So because it benefited, yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll get into it later.
I can understand why you have thoughts about that.
Yeah.
I have thoughts about that, and I don't know anything. So
He has a decent resume from like F2 and whatnot, but he's very young. He's inexperienced. He's barely had the rookie practice sessions that each team has to have. I think he should have been a reserve driver for development for a couple years, but whatever.
The other guy, that's George Russell? Question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I read a fanfic about him.
Yes, you did.
It was crazy, you guys. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, I'm not George Russell's biggest fan, but
Fair enough.
That's for another day as well.
He looks mean. That's all I'm gonna say.
McLaren, my boys. That's it.
How long has it been like them?
Since I started watching, so 2 years.
Your
They're
boys.
pretty solid pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Constructors champion last year, so
Mm-hmm.
they're doing something right. Alpine. So many thoughts. Oh my god.
Okay. Intrigued.
So Pierre Gasly, been their driver for a while. It's a French team. He's a French driver.
Yeah.
Previously, it was a double French team, so Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. They replaced him with Jack Doohan. They dropped Esteban for the last race.
Oh.
So Jack came in for Abu Dhabi and raced that final race of the year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Don't know why they did that.
Yeah, interesting.
Unnecessary. Rumor has it, nothing has been confirmed as of yet, but in classic Alpine fashion, it wouldn't be surprising. Rumor has it Jack Doohan's contract is only for 5 races.
Okay.
And then he will be replaced by Franco Colapinto.
Oh.
Who is their... Yeah. Because currently they have 3 reserve drivers.
Yeah.
Not necessary. There's something going on at that team.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to get their shit together, but they won't.
Okay, what's this next one? Because it looks like Red Bull.
So that's Red Bull's like child essentially. Um
Oh, okay.
it's the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. VCARB if you will. So instead of being Red Bull, it's Racing Bulls.
Okay.
Last year it was, or not last year, they raced as VCARB last year, but the year before they were AlphaTauri.
Okay, well, I recognize. First of all, I recognize that name, and second
Hmm.
of all, I like that better.
Nobody knows
Whatever.
the real name. People still call it AlphaTauri. The
I
drivers
would
still
call it
call it
AlphaTauri.
AlphaTauri.
Like that sounds sick as hell.
Yeah, but that's why everyone just calls it VCARB.
You have one of their guys circled.
Yeah, Isaac Hajar. He rookie coming into this year, solid enough. He's performed pretty well in any like the FP1 sessions he's done. It's a
Cool.
decent car to start his F1 career in. Nothing too competitive, but it's like a good midfield team.
And be like Yuki.
We love Yuki. It's up for debate whether he deserved the Red Bull seat more than Liam Lawson.
Mm,
It was between them for
yes,
the
I
seat.
do remember this whole debate. Yes, I
Hmm.
do recall this. Yep.
We'll see how that pans out.
Hmm.
The Haas team.
Oh, Haas. I knew that there was a team called Haas, and yet I was still
Yeah.
looking at this H, being like, "What is this?"
So Esteban Ocon,
Mm-hmm.
previously of Alpine,
Yep.
and he now has Sarah Mueller as his race engineer.
Yes.
So
Period.
maybe he'll drive better this year.
Exactly. Oh, love that.
Ollie Behrman, good, solid rookie. He technically isn't considered a rookie
Oh,
anymore
okay.
because he's had neither is Liam Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
Because they participated in so many F1 races,
Yeah.
but I still categorize them as new to the
Yeah, they're
whatever.
still newbies,
Yeah,
basically.
or new to the seat.
Yeah.
That's why I put anytime you go into the Red Bull car, you're a rookie basically. You're starting from scratch. That car is so different.
he this
Ollie,
he looks like a baby.
he is a baby. Honestly, he's a pretty solid driver. He came in to fill in for Carlos Sainz when he got his
Mm.
appendix out. He finished in points. He will do as well as he can in the Haas car, which was
Love that.
performing pretty well at the end of last season. So we'll see. Those are my
Cool.
thoughts on the grid.
All right. Excited for when we start actually doing like proper like F1 episodes. Okay. Favorite sport other than our favorites. I don't really pay attention to sports outside of hockey, really. Okay, my joke answer, I think, would be Hantis. It's like a mix of Foursquare and table tennis. And so like we watched this whole like documentary about like these people who created it, and like they went through the process of creating it and like the rules and everything like that. And then so like we played it in middle school, and it was like so funny. And it was like the most ridiculous, unserious sport ever that I was like, yeah, this is a sport that I can get behind. That's my silly answer. My real answer, I'm trying to think of what I like watching at the Olympics. I I love
Figure skating?
swimming. I love figure skating. I love swimming. I love watching swimming at the Olympics, and I also love actually swimming. I almost got put into competitive swimming. And then I think I'm intrigued about getting into women's soccer, but like women's soccer specifically. I don't know if I care too much about men's soccer or like FIFA or whatever. But women's
Just
soccer, I
Valor.
feel, yeah. But women's soccer, I feel like I could get behind. Oh, and maybe rugby, but also again specifically women's rugby. A lot of the sports other than hockey that I would be interested in getting into are like specifically like the women's version of them. Like I've been getting a lot of like WNBA stuff on my Instagram, and I'm like, I don't care about the NBA, but like maybe I could get behind the WNBA. So yeah, but everyone look up Hantis. It's chaotic, it's crazy. Um what about you, Bailey? What other sports do you like?
Competitive cup stacking for sure.
Cup stacking. Dude, do not put red solo cups in front of me. They will get stacked.
Okay, so I mean, that was kind of a joke, but also so much fun. I want to get into lacrosse, kind of.
Mm,
I'm
hmm.
intrigued by lacrosse.
Yes.
Um, but my only other sport that I'm really interested in outside of like hockey and F1, um, cheerleading. I was a
Yes.
yeah,
Bailey was a
six
cheerleader.
six-time provincial champ. So, and we went to Worlds and we went to Edmonton and competed and stuff. So,
Yeah, they like traveled and stuff. It's so
hmm
so slay. Yeah, cheerleading is a wonderful sport, honestly. It's this weird thing where it's like now it's starting to get more recognition as like an actual sport, but it's also
Hmm.
still
It's
underrated.
still underrated.
But I love cheerleading. Oh, my favorite videos are those ones of like the Laker girls and stuff when they're like doing the thing where one of the dancers is like facing away and then the other dancer like does one of their routines and then they have to guess what routine it is just by hearing
And
the
they, yeah,
steps.
that one's super cool. I love that.
Freaking crazy. Anyways,
Yeah.
I love cheer.
But yeah, I miss cheer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm open. Oh, and I also low key tennis. I'm open. The thing
I'm
is
not
I'm
open to
open
tennis.
to a lot.
Sorry.
I'm open to a lot of sports, but like I don't think I will ever like be as invested in a sport the way that I am hockey. Like I don't think there will be a second hockey in my life. I think it'll be like hockey and then like a bunch of other sports that I'm like at least have some knowledge about kind of.
Until I can get you invested in F1.
Yes, we're tracking my journey. What other questions are there? Okay, this one's well. I'm gonna save one of the questions for last because I feel like it's a bigger thing. Oh, this one will be a quick answer. At Key, opinions on Kevin He and how do we think he's gonna do as a Jet? First of all, I think he's great. I think he's amazing. I just watched a video of him where there's this new trend right now going on TikTok where it is like the social media person of each like team is like it's really sad trend actually because the social media person of each team is going around and being like, oh, like I'll give you like this candy or whatever, like if you can tell me my name or whatever. And like all of them are like, what? I don't know. Or like, I don't know, like you've definitely told us before. And I'm like, guys, like the bar's on the floor. That's actually crazy. And then the Niagara Ice Dogs did it. That's the team that Kevin He plays on. And every single player, like none of the players knew the social media girl's name except for Kevin He. He comes up and he's like, it's Tess, obviously. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my god, exactly, Kevin He. Like, first of all, again, bars on the floor, but like the fact that he knew it out of everybody, like, come on, come on.
Icon.
Anyways, he's great. Fun fact for everybody: he is a Jets prospect, and like he made history basically as being like the first Chinese-born hockey player to get like drafted to the NHL, basically. Hey guys, it's Key coming at you from Editing World yet again. I just wanted to come in to say two things. The first thing is that Kevin He's actual historic milestone was that he was the first Chinese born player to sign an NHL contract specifically. Very different from what I said, which was getting drafted. And the second thing is that this Q&A episode was filmed before the Niagara Ice Dogs played against the Erie Otters, I believe the team was, and Kevin He delivered that crazy hit to one of the other players. Obviously, we don't condone that. It was a really terrible hit. Watch the videos. It was inexcusable basically. Doesn't negate anything that I said. I do love him. I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's awesome. But we don't condone that behavior, and neither does the league because they suspended him for 3 games. And you know what? As they should. They made the right choice. So, now you know. And he's still a baby, so he's still playing in the OHL. I think he's just freshly 18 or he just turned 19, one of the two, but he's still a baby. Whenever people talk about like prospects and stuff, like his name comes up a lot because like people always talk about how he's doing really well with the Niagara Ice Dogs. So everyone's really excited for him to join the Jets and see what happens, and I'm also really excited to see him join the Jets cuz like he's been playing so well in the OHL. So that's my thoughts on Kevin He. I think he's great. Also, it'll just be so good to have a Asian person on the Jets. Because like, I got. I'll talk about this in my hot take slash controversial, like in our episode where we're talking about hot takes and whatever. Because I have to tell all of you about how I was like, wow, I love him so much, and then everybody in the comment section was like, why would you ever say that?
Yeah,
um
that's
That was
kind of,
crazy. So
that
we're
was
gonna save that
crazy.
story. We're gonna table that story for another day. Anyways, what is our dream NHL player trade? Okay, well, mine is easy because I want Brossois back. So I don't care who we give away. I just want him back. So that would be a great trade for me. And Loki, I think Actually, no. I was gonna say someone on the Sharks, but I don't think I could break that group up. I don't think I could separate any of them.
Take the
I think
pair.
bonded pair, please do not separate. No, I can't take them. Um, yeah, I would love to trade literally anybody, somebody. Eric Comrie. I love Eric Comrie now, but I would still, if it was a choice between getting Bros Wabag or keeping Eric Comrie, you're gone. I'm sorry. I can't. I need LB back so bad. Um, another dream trade. I don't know. Maybe like for no other reason other than the fact that he's like half Filipino, but I want Jason Robertson. I don't care too much about Nick Robertson. Sorry, Nick. But Jason Robertson, he would be cool. Bailey, do you have any player that you would want on the Kraken?
Honestly, I don't even like know that many other players outside the
Real
Kraken.
Jack Hughes. No, I'm just kidding. Ew.
Ooh, no, I was gonna say Shane Pinto,
Wait, yes. Period.
but just because I want to see him,
He's so cute. He's such a cutie.
he's
Pause for
such a
pose.
cutie.
He's such a cutie, guys.
I would take Shane Pinto on either the Kraken or the Jets, but just
Mm,
the Jets to like maybe have the off chance of seeing him walking around.
mm-hmm. Oh, this is gonna be my controversial take, actually. So currently, because the trade deadline is like coming up or whatever, there's a bunch of little rumors about like who's gonna be traded or whatever. Bailey's not gonna like this, but I really want Yanni Gord here at the in the Jets. I want Yanni Gord to be a Jet so bad. I think that he's slay, and I think that we could really use somebody like him. And honestly, Bailey, if he played for the Jets, you could see him more. So
Yeah, but that doesn't like help my team. I don't think we can afford to lose him.
Bailey, who would you trade Gru for?
Jeremy Swayman
Oh my god, are you serious? Sways and Decord
and Joey, they would
as
be so
a
good.
Kraken tandem kind of would go hard.
They'd be so good.
That would kind of be really slay.
Imagine the social videos of them together.
Oh my gosh. No, Bowie would be so jealous. Well, I mean, listen,
But they'd be
they could
really
be a
good.
trio. They're not gonna let go of Swaven, but listen,
Mm-mm.
we can dream. It would be cool if they did. It would be cool if they got
It'd
rid
be
of
cool.
Gru.
They will. It's
Uh,
in. I'm pretty sure it's in the talks. Like
but who would take him?
I don't know someone, but like they have to get someone. They're probably just gonna take one of the Firebirds.
Trying to think if there's any other players that I want traded. I want the entirety of Vegas to get traded to out of the NHL. And you know what? Along those lines, add the Leafs in there too.
I mean, at
mm,
least the Leafs have some like decent players.
that's true. Yeah. I just can't stand them. But
Valid.
agreed though.
But yeah, I think yeah, Shane Pinto to the Jets or to the Kraken.
He's pretty good to the crack.
Yeah,
Y'all could use some good guys.
yeah. That's for another
um
day.
it is for another day, guys. I'm excited for the our weekly yap up on when the trade deadline happens. I'm sure there will be a lot to talk about. What
Just in our
questions are there?
teams, because who cares?
There was a really big trade that happened that I honestly didn't even really care about, but it was a huge deal for everybody else. PWHL question, period. Please explain what this new rule is in the PWHL and when it applies. So, there are actually a couple of new rules in the PWHL that differ from the NHL. So, I'll talk about all of them because I'm not sure which one. The biggest rule that the PWHL has that the NHL doesn't is the jailbreak rule. And so this is kind of a two-parter rule. So basically when in the NHL, if you are the team that takes a penalty, and so you are shorthanded, so the other team has 5 and you have 4. In the PWHL, if the shorthanded team scores a goal, it's called a jailbreak because you break your friend out of the penalty box and you end the penalty there. In the NHL, if you score a goal shorthanded, the power play still it doesn't end, like it still keeps going. But in the PWHL, effectively ends it. You free your friend from jail, and you're back at full strength. Um, and then in tandem with that, in the NHL, when you go into a penalty kill or a power play, you get to like stop the play once the penalty happens, and then you get to like choose like your power play players and then your penalty kill players. You get to choose them. In the PWHL, when a penalty happens or whatever, you're stuck with whoever's on that ice at the time of the penalty. So like you could still switch your lines and stuff like after a bit of time. But, like at the time of the penalty, once the power play starts, like you're stuck with whoever was on the ice at that time. So that's an interesting rule because it kind of forces everybody to really be on their toes because like again with the NHL, like you switch out your boys, like you put out like people who are like specifically like
Your
really good at
power play
shooting to be on the
line.
power play. Yeah, exactly. But with the PWHL, you're stuck with whoever was on the ice at that time. So like it kind of forces everybody to be versatile and forces everybody to kind of be playing a well-rounded game on the off chance that like they're going to be stuck on the ice to do a power play or do a penalty kill. So that's one of the rules. Another rule is that I guess it's not a rule, but like a change also. One of the changes is like the point system. So the PWHL has a 3-2-1-0 point system, whereas the NHL has a 2-1-0 point system. For the NHL, any win, regardless of what kind it is 2 points. Overtime or shootout loss is 1 point, and then a regulation loss is 0 points. With the PWHL, though, a regulation win is 3 points. An overtime or shootout win is 2 points. An overtime or shootout loss is 1 point, and then a regulation loss is 0 points. So points are worth more in the PWHL. I'm trying to think of like other. Those are like the main things. Another thing is that in a shootout, um, if you'll remember my explanation of what a shootout is from the first episode. But in a shootout in the NHL, you're only allowed to use a player once for the shootout. So as I said in the first episode, it's like a best of five. You send out your five best shooters or whatever, but you can only use them once. In the PWHL, there's no limit to how many times you could send out a player. So like say like Jesse Aldridge for the New York Sirens is an incredible scorer. Like she get goals. And so they send her out multiple times in a shootout because they can. Whereas like in the NHL, they would only be able to send her out once. They also have a rule about like physicality. If any contact is made to the head, they automatically have to review it. Like checks to the head are taken very seriously in the PWHL. They should also be taken seriously in the NHL, but they aren't always. But like any sort of contact made towards the head specifically is like taken very seriously. Like in this season alone, there have been a decent amount of suspensions because of
Head contact.
physicality like around like the head area and yeah, you can be suspended from like one to however many depending on the severity of the hit. Like you could just be suspended because you check someone to the head.
No matter if it was
um
intentional or not.
yeah, exactly. Just like they take safety really seriously, which is good to see. And they're making an example of like no dangerous
No
play will be
tolerance.
tolerated whatsoever. On Montreal Victoire, Amanda Boulier is the shortest player in the PWHL. I think she's 5'1". And so I think it was a Frost player. I think. I can't remember. It was somebody, but someone got suspended because they had like hit her in the head. Like what normally would have just been like shoulder height of like a nudging up against the boards. Like it hit her in the head because she was so short. And so like obviously it was good still that like because she got hit in the head, there was a suspension. But it's stuff like that where some people, I personally don't, but like some people kind of take issue with the whole like, oh, there should be more nuance to it or whatever. But like, I don't know. I just feel like with head stuff specifically, there shouldn't be any room for nuance. Like
Mm.
any other body part, like is dangerous to hit, but like cases can be made. But like specifically contact to the head, I feel like there's no space for a gray area because like even whether it was intentional or not, like you could really damage somebody if you hit them in the head. So yeah, people have thoughts about that, but I'm of the opinion that I think that like even if it was an accident, you should still face the punishment because if even if it was an accident, you could have really concussed somebody or something.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the biggest things. For the most part, everything is the same. Bailey, what are your thoughts? on the work of F1 author Anita Driver.
So before this question came in, I didn't know who she was. Not
Me
gonna lie.
neither. Period.
Upon a singular Google, and browse upon good old Goodreads. um, I don't have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. Congrats on your musical, girl.
Congrats on your musical.
So
Um,
true.
but I mean, good for you writing what you want to write. Some children's books and some
Mm-hmm.
fan fiction, basically.
And interesting choice of character name.
Thick Rick is crazy.
That is a crazy work, honestly. If I saw a book and I was like, oh, that's kind of intriguing, or whatever, and I like picked it up and I read the back or whatever, and it was like so and Thick Rick, I'd be like,
No.
we're gonna put that back right away.
Go off, Bessie.
Yeah, you know what? You do you. And
You do
again,
you.
congratulations on your Broadway musical. All of you curious people can check her out. Listen to the musical. See if it's any good. I know I will be listening to it and seeing if it's any good. Our last question, I saved it for last because it's a good question and I feel like we would have a lot of things to say about it. How do I get into sports? It seems overwhelming to even begin and going to games is expensive. So
True.
true on every account. I don't know. Bailey, do you want to you talked a little bit in the first episode about how you kind of got into F1
Mm-hmm.
specifically. What were some like really good resources that were like helpful for you?
For learning,
Yeah.
like the official F1 app has a lot of
Mm-hmm.
good resources. It has like F1 for beginner kind of things on it. TikTok, there's a lot of really good creators
Mm-hmm.
who do like kind of like F1 for dummies kind of thing. It is expensive if you want
Yeah.
to like get into it, but most of them are televised on like TSN. Starting there, sitting down and watching a race and seeing if it even piques your interest. They're like 2 hour races. There's no breaks. There's no intermission, halftime. They just go around. Going to actual races, I have never because they're expensive.
And you have to and like there's none here, so you would have to travel to them.
The closest one is Montreal. The only valid American race, which I'll get into, is COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Texas.
Period.
If racing interests you, IndyCar is cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's still kind of similar, but very different in its format. But the closest one for that is also Toronto.
Damn. Crazy.
So it's not super accessible here. I mean, there's like little car races and stuff
Mm-hmm.
outside the city. Um, Not the same. TSN is your friend.
Mm.
The F1 app is your friend. Asking questions to people who know, like people want to help. People want to get people into it. It's a growing sport. It's growing in popularity.
Watch Drive to Survive, but take it with a grain of salt.
Yes, yeah. Take it with a grain of salt. It is over dramatized, but it gives you a good background on the history
Mm-hmm.
because F1's it's overwhelming. It's too old, but like the F1 app and like
Mm-hmm.
Drive to Survive, it gives you a good foundation.
Would you say that this new like F1 Academy thing is also a good way to because are there the races aren't televised, but do they get like put on YouTube or like
Hmm.
anything like that?
Yeah, they do. Still a much cheaper and much more accessible way to watch it and to
Mm-hmm.
like get into the sport adjacent.
We can both speak on the hockey thing, but I could
Hmm.
kickstart it.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, for me, I would love to address games being expensive because you're so right, they totally are.
Hmm.
I'm sure most teams do this, but I know that the Jets for sure, they have this thing called student rush tickets. And so it's really easy. Like, I'm not a current student whatsoever, but I still sign up for it. Like, they don't check. I still carry my student ID everywhere because I can still pass for a student and it's just good to have. But the Jets have this thing called a student rush. And my good friend Dane actually introduced this to me. Shout out Dane. But he told me that like you sign up for this thing and whenever they have extra tickets they will text you and saying like, hey, like there's extra tickets to this game on like I think it's the day of or whatever, and then they're like at a cheaper price because like again they're like student tickets and they just want butts and seats basically. So tickets range between like $50 to $60. Like they'll probably be in the 300s, but like that's still a pretty good deal for the
For jet
300s
seats.
anyways. There was a time where I got a text, tickets were like literally like $32. So again, it's a little bit more of a gamble for those because it's only if they have free space and if it's not a sellout or whatever. And it's also not a guarantee that you'll be free on the day that they text you, but it's a good way to at least like be aware of games that are going on. And yeah, again, they don't check that you're a student. Like I'm signed up for it. I graduated like 3 years ago and I signed up for it and it's fine.
Another cheap way are Moose games.
Yes, Moose games. Yeah, you don't have to start with the NHL. The NHL is super daunting. There's so much history. There's like a century of history. Too many players, too many teams. You don't have to start with the NHL. AHL is great. Moose games are so accessible.
They're super accessible. They want butts and seats.
Exactly. And
They
like they're so fun. Like they are geared towards like younger audiences a lot of the
mhm,
time. So like a lot of the atmosphere is just like very easily to understand and very super chill, not
interactive.
as yeah, interactive, that's true, and not as hardcore, but it's still good hockey. One of the things I don't like people saying about the AHL is that like, oh, it's like it's the loser league or like
Yeah.
whatever, or like, oh, it's like for the bad players. Like it's a developmental league for sure,
Hmm.
but it's still pro hockey.
It's
Like
still pro hockey.
good hockey for less.
Hmm.
Um,
Just like they had
and
that promo for January games that we
yes,
went to. The tickets were buy one get one free. So it was
and
$40 for 2 tickets.
exactly, like that's
You
genuinely
can't. And we had
crazy.
really good seats.
We were so close to the glass and a really good angle. It was great.
Hmm.
Another good way to get into hockey, not necessarily the NHL, is the PWHL. All of their games are on YouTube. Even last season's games are all on YouTube. They upload everything like as an archive, so you could just pick a game. They do live stream on YouTube, but unfortunately, they only live stream on YouTube if you're out of Canada, which is kind of stupid. But if you have a VPN, I don't know, or if you don't care about watching it live, you could always just like catch it when it gets uploaded later on. But
Hmm.
I mentioned this in another episode, I think. But like a good way to get into it is to just like pick an old game and put it on in the background while you sew, while you cook, while you do chores or whatever.
Hmm.
And there's no stress because it's not a live game, so you could focus less on like the outcome and focus more on what calls are they making, like what are the players' names that you're hearing, like what are the words you keep hearing, icing, offside, like stuff like that, and kind of getting context for that. Again, it's a newer league, all new league. And so like
Very not daunting because there's
only
only
6
six teams.
teams. The PWHL fan app, there's not like an official app yet. But the fan app, for a fan made app, it's so well done. Honestly, way better than the like NHL app or the TSN app. Like it has a lot of really good info. I'll like screen record me going through it and I'll put it in post of like just like the stuff that it has, but it's free, super user friendly, and like it gives you a lot of information. And then yeah, like Bailey said, like talking to people, asking questions, like message the pod Instagram. I don't know. If you care about, not everybody does, but if you care about like wanting to learn players, when the seasons start, buy those $1.50 Tim Hortons hockey cards. I collect them because I love collecting things and I'm a big goblin, but they're also a really good way for me. Like I wouldn't know half the players that I know if it weren't for those cards, and like getting like 3 Colton Prego cards or like whatever. Like when you open a pack and you just see these names and like the logo that they're associated with, like you things will stick. And so that's how I started to learn players outside of the Jets. And yeah, and honestly, whatever, I'm just gonna say it. Following the pod and listening to our podcasts, like you're already taking a good step. Not to be like, oh, we're like the be all end all for like how to get into sports. But like if you are not a sports person whatsoever, the fact that you followed us, asked this question, and are potentially listening to our episodes is a good first step in the direction of getting into sports. Like you are hearing people talk about it, even if you have no idea what they're talking about. I listened to Bailey talk about F1. I don't know what she's talking about, but I learned more in this episode than I've ever known about F1. Like just hearing people talk about it, like
Yeah.
you'll be like a
Interact
sponge.
with one thing on TikTok and it'll
Yeah,
become your whole
exactly.
FYP.
Or Instagram, you like one hockey related thing, immediately you'll just get all the hockey recommendations, all the
Hmm.
memes. So even if going to games or races are expensive, there are
Hmm.
other leagues that are accessible and other ways to kind of get in the
Watch and
know.
interact.
without necessarily actively being at a game. But if you do have the opportunity to go to a game, like say you win tickets or someone's giving them away or like whatever, like definitely go. Like you'll learn a lot just from the atmosphere alone.
Honestly, it's also just a good time.
Yeah, it's so fun. The Kendall Life Center is lit. It's crazy in there.
Other than the $6 bottle of iced tea.
That's crazy. That's robbery. And again, like Bailey and I are always around. Like, feel free to message us specifically or message the pod. The whole reason we started this pod is because we're so happy to talk about this stuff. And also because we have a passion for wanting people to get into this stuff, but in a non daunting and accessible way. Because there's so many podcasts out there that focus so much on like stats and like big numbers and big names and just too much all at once. So like we just kind of wanted to be a chiller, sort of more laid back version of
Experts in
that.
fun, not facts.
Exactly. So hopefully that answered your question. But again, we're both happy to answer more specific stuff. I mean, I can't speak for the other sports, but like definitely follow if you want. If you like basketball, definitely follow the WNBA. Their social media is really fun. I've been getting a lot of their stuff on my Instagram. Oh, if you like women's sports specifically, follow the Gist CA on Instagram. I'll
Yes.
put their. I got introduced to them because they have a newsletter that's like it's all sports, but it's like explained in a very like assuming that you don't know anything about sports. It's like a here's the rundown and here's like our like really base explanation of like what happened this week kind of vibe. They post news on their Instagram of like I got all my WNBA news from them even though I don't follow the WNBA, but it like was easy to understand. So they're a good resource. The Gist CA.
Not women's sports at all, or a sport that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wanted to get into soccer,
Mm.
Valour FC games,
Yes. Oh my
super
god, they're
cheap.
so cheap
They're
and
so cheap. They're 20
guaranteed
bucks a
you'll
pop.
yes, and guaranteed you'll get a good seat because like
Mm-hmm.
nobody goes to Valor Game. And we had a good time
We
to
had a
the
good
one that we were
time. We
at.
didn't
It was
understand what was going on
we
the
had
whole
no
time.
idea what was happening, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you have cable or you are traveling or whatever, and like literally like Bailey and I got so transfixed by watching this women's soccer game because it
When
was
we
the
were
only
waiting for
we were waiting for the NHL game to play. We were in Edmonton and there's literally our hotel TV had like no channels
Mm-mm.
at whatsoever except for this like sports channel. And so we were waiting for the Kraken game to come on. And while we were waiting for it to come on, the only other thing that was on was this like women's soccer game. And we were really invested.
That was
So
also, was that before the Kraken game or was it before we left? Because we had time before like the flight,
oh my god, no,
and
yeah,
we
you're
were
right.
waiting for checkout.
It was our last day. It wasn't before the Kraken game. It was our
No,
last day.
we got so invested.
We yeah, because we packed and everything. Our
Mm-hmm.
flight wasn't for a while, so we were like whatever, and then we were just watching it. It was really cool. So yeah, just put on a game.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get invested, honestly. Trust. And if you're not invested, then it just means it's not
Try
the
another
sport for
sport.
you. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be F1 or hockey or basketball or tennis. Watch the Olympics.
Honestly,
They're so fun. The Olympics are actually a really great way to get into sports because there's so many of them happening all the time.
and it's just a little sprinkle.
Exactly. It's just and like you could be like, "Wow, Chloe Kim, she's so cool. I really liked seeing her snowboarding." Like, period. Let me check out more
Snowboarding's
of what she's
sick.
done. Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of ways that you could just kind of get like a little sprinkle and then like go down the rabbit hole and then become addicted.
Mm-hmm.
read some read some F1 romance novels.
Read some romance
Read
novels.
some hockey romance novels.
I
Listen.
read a lacrosse romance book the other day.
Hmm.
Nope. Nope, not the other day. It was last year.
Basically the other day. Hey, listen, it's January. It could have been the other
Yeah.
day.
And it was really good. And
Love
that's
that.
why I'm interested in lacrosse.
That's why. And the NHL has their own version of Drive to Survive. I don't remember what it's called.
I don't know.
Uh,
I don't think we can watch it in Canada, can we?
what? That's crazy. That's actually fucked.
Because there's a bunch of other teams that have one too.
Yeah, because the one that I'm thinking of specifically is like centering on like Austin Matthews and
Is it on Netflix?
somebody else. I don't remember. I think so because the one that I'm thinking about was specifically made by the Drive to Survive people. Hey everybody, Key here. So I found it. It's called Face Off inside the NHL. It is made and produced by the same people who made Drive to Survive. And the league hasn't really promoted that much, so it made it very hard to find, but it's been renewed for season 2. So, I don't know. We'll probably do a couple other, like, we'll probably, as things go, like, I don't think, like, weekly, but, like, every so often we'll probably do, like, another Q&A and just see.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, if something big happens in either of the worlds, like, maybe we'll put out a Q&A and see. But yeah, thanks for asking us stuff. Good questions, everybody. We,
Good
like, yapped for a
questions.
really long time, actually.
Way longer than we thought.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be so much for me to go through. But yeah, as always, follow us on Instagram at pod.fromthebox. We also have at least one episode out now by the time that we're recording this, at least one episode out. So you can check out our very first episode. We go into kind of similar stuff as we talk about here, but it was more in depth here just because we wanted to save it for specifically this. And yeah, thanks for joining us in the box. Which box will we be in next?
Who knows? The penalty box?
The press box?
Box?
Or the dice box?
Who knows?
Roll for it.
Roll for it.